Peter Parker Spider-Man is one of the most incorruptible characters in the Marvel Universe. He was raised to live up to an ideal that no one could possibly ever really live up to, and on top of it, he stacks the odds against himself by adding more and more provisions. You think it all stops at with great power there must also come great responsibility, but in fact he also adds another stipulation, and that is a staunch no-killing policy. Much like Batman, Spider-Man understands the gravity of taking a life, and he swears to never cross that line. But he is human, and once in a while we do falter, especially in the line of duty. How many times has Peter Parker faltered? Let's find out. The first instance in which Peter Parker is directly responsible for the death of another person is Uncle Ben. While only depicted in flashbacks and off-panel, it's due to the inactions of Peter Parker, who had great power but refused to accept the great responsibility bestowed upon him, that Uncle Ben met his death. But this is old news, and without the death we don't get Spider-Man, so there can't be that much bad attached to it, and the fact is, Spider-Man himself believes that he's responsible, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone agrees with him, so it's kind of conjecture at this point. The first real time in which Spider-Man actually is responsible for the death of another person is in 1968 in Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 5. In this story, Spider-Man is trying to unravel the mystery of his parents' death, and in fact, there's strong evidence to suggest that they were traitorous spies. In a mystery that includes the Red Skull, Spider-Man actually winds up getting attacked by a character known as the Finisher. The Finisher uses advanced weapons technology, including smart missiles, to fire at Spider-Man, and Spider-Man ends up luring one of those smart missiles into the car the Finisher is using. It's hard to argue that Spider-Man is not directly responsible for the Finisher's death, though one could argue if the Finisher didn't want to get blown up by missiles, maybe he should have been firing them in the first place. A far more tragic example of Spider-Man being directly responsible for the death of another is in Amazing Spider-Man number 121 in 1973. Now, you've heard this one a million times. Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, kidnaps Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker's girlfriend, takes her on top of the Brooklyn Bridge, or was it the George Washington Bridge? She is stunned or unconscious. It's really unclear as to what her state is. Green Goblin bashes into her using his Goblin Glider, and she plummets to her doom until Spider-Man fires a web line which catches her suddenly and snaps her neck. Goblin takes credit for her death, saying the fall killed her and not the web line, but different studies and other comic books have contradicted this theory, and it's widely held that in fact Spider-Man's web line did kill her. Although Peter Parker does kind of blame Norman Osborn for the most part. In Marvel Team-Up number 12 in 1973, Spider-Man teams up with the Werewolf, and they battle a villainous magician known as Moondark. In the climactic battle, Spider-Man knocks Moondark into a portal, which deposits him high atop the Golden Gate Bridge. From there, Moondark falls into the water and dies. Spider-Man makes a vastly inappropriate joke at his expense, and is never referred to again. In Marvel Team-Up number 31 in 1975, Spider-Man and Iron Fist team up to battle Drom the Backwards Man. The duo defeated Drom by smashing his source of power, which caused him to age backwards into nothingness. Unlike the last team-up, Spider-Man expresses some characteristic guilt over his fallen enemy. In Spider-Man vs. Wolverine in 1987, Spider-Man punches an innocent woman in the face and kills her. Not an illusion, not a villain, a female ally. In an attempt to avoid inevitable torture and killing by the KGB, Charlie asks Wolverine to kill her in a cemetery. Spider-Man shows up to stop it, and another battle between Wolverine and Spider-Man ensues. In the commotion, Spider-Man feels a hand on his shoulder, which he believes is Wolverine, and pours all of his strength into one punch meant for Wolverine. Now, Charlie was trying to commit suicide, and knowing Spider-Man was not going to let that happen, she took matters into her own hands. But this death would haunt Peter Parker for quite some time. In Web of Spider-Man 91 in 1992, Spider-Man is battling the forces of the Foreigner, and in a firefight, Spider-Man takes the previously alive body of one of the agents and puts it in front of himself to block the laser blast of another enemy. This kills the agent, and the agent who killed that agent kills himself. So really, it's more like a twofer. Spider-Man has a spider sense, agility, and super strength. There is no way he shouldn't have avoided that blast, and instead just used the body of an enemy. For me, this is one of the more egregious offenses. In Amazing Spider-Man 483 from 2002, Spider-Man is battling on the astral plane with Doctor Strange. He faces an enemy named Shade and throws Shade into his energy storages, killing him. Shade had been a regular person who was corrupted by magic. Spider-Man saves hostages that were kept there by Shade, but he still killed him. The only explanation I have for this is that it's written by J. Michael Straczynski, who, to be fair, didn't read a lot of old Spider-Man books. In Amazing Spider-Man 491, while at an airport, Spider-Man and Captain America team up to defend Dr. Doom from heavily armed terrorists. One of them fires a missile which Spider-Man catches with his web line, and redirects it out of a hole in the ceiling, right into two additional terrorists. Though to be fair, I don't think Spider-Man knew those guys were there. But is that really okay? In Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 3 in 2006, Spider-Man turns into the Other, which is a spider version of himself, and then eats the face of Morlun, killing him. To be fair though, he did just transform into a spider monster. And even more to the point, his wife was being attacked by an energy vampire who turned out to be a clone anyway, so who cares? Responsible for 9 human deaths, 1 suicide, and an accidental burglary turned homicide, it's hardly a body count that rivals the Punisher or anything. But considering the number of times Spider-Man has denounced other characters for extreme tactics, maybe it's a little late to be calling the kettle black. That's all for now, everybody. See you guys next time on Comics Explained. Don't forget to visit us on comicpop.net. See you later.